What's going on, y'all? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, coming at you with another edition of the Flyin Illini Breakdown. I'm your host, Stephen Bardo. This is where I go in depth to give you a scouting report for the Flyin Illini's next opponent, which will be Tuesday, tomorrow, January 24th versus Ohio State. The Buckeyes got a much-needed win over Iowa in their last victory. They got back to their scoring ways. They scored 91 points on the Hawkeyes and really got a lot of people involved offensively. And so ought to be fun here. This will be a good game, a good test for the Illini, like all these Big Ten schools are. And Ohio State presents a different look in terms of their offensive efficiency. And, you know, Chris Holtmann, I think, does a fantastic job of putting guys in position to be successful. And the Illini coming off a nasty loss. I know I got criticized for the way that I called the game. It was interesting that the game I called at Minnesota, the game before the Indiana game, I didn't hear a peep. Nobody said anything about how bad I was as an announcer. I didn't get any negative feedback at all. But against Indiana, when Indiana dominated the Illini, won by 15 in the House of Pain, all of a sudden, I got all this blowback. And I pride myself on calling the game the way I see it. I can call a game with my sons playing, and I'd be objective towards them. So I don't know that I had anything to do with 13 missed free throws and 12 missed layups, but I digress. Let's get into it. So the Buckeyes are number 6 offensive efficiency team in the nation. Can really, really score. Last year, they were very similar. This year, a little bit different personnel, but same outcome. Bryce Sensabaugh is sensational, shooting 51% from the field, 47% from three. At 6'5", 6'6", 235, can really create space. Is a little bit quicker than he looks. He's so smooth, but he's very quick. And when he can't outquick you, he can hit you with that shoulder, and his body's so strong, it's tough to get him off his path. And he's got a really nice high release on his jumper, and he can get it off almost any time he wants to. So this guy is an elite scorer. Maybe, I mean, outside of Zach Edey, maybe the best scorer. He and Chris Murray from Iowa, I believe those are probably the 2 most efficient scorers in the conference. The Buckeyes got 18 and 10 from Isaac Likely. Isaac Likely is the 6'5" point guard, 2-guard, kind of hybrid guard that came in from Oklahoma State. He missed some games due to some family issues, so I think that threw off his confidence and threw off his timing. But he had 18 and 10 against Iowa. And I think that you're going to start to see him be a lot more aggressive offensively. He had really been passive. I was kind of surprised at how passive he was inside of the Buckeyes offense. Once he came in, started the season, he kind of deferred to other guys. And then Bruce Thornton came and took the starting position at the point guard, the freshman. But he really regained form in this last game against Iowa. And we know that Iowa's strong suit is definitely not defense. However, Iowa is playing much better basketball. And Isaac Likely was outstanding in that game with 18 and 10. Sean McNeil, a three-point specialist, is starting to find the range. He struggled to start the season. Transferring is hard. You've heard me say that a number of times. If you see me on Bardo's Breakdown, I talk about how difficult transferring is. And so it takes time for Isaac Likely, Sean McNeil to kind of find their way within a new system. But Sean McNeil is starting to find his way. His three-point shooting has been more consistent. He's able to find his shot off the bounce a little bit more now. So he is doing well. And Roddy Gale Jr., this freshman is coming. Crazy athlete, had a highlight dunk on the baseline against Iowa. I don't know if you saw it, where he took off. He's coming baseline. He took off with 2, and Philip Rebracha jumped at him. And so Roddy Gale went up, held it down, flew past Rebracha, yak at the rim. I mean, it was a nasty athletic dunk. And this kid is coming on. He had 8 points and 5 rebounds. he's better on the defensive end because he's locking in and utilizing his long wingspan and athleticism. But he's coming, and if he can develop, oh boy, that provides an athletic option for the Buckeyes on the wing and a big time defender. So he's coming. The Buckeyes overall, if you look at their turnover numbers, they're not poor, but what happens is they have untimely turnovers, times where they get in crucial situations when they were having that 5-game I think it was 5-game losing streak. Yes. 5-game losing streak at Nebraska, at Rutgers, home versus Minnesota, at Maryland, and home versus Purdue, where they lost by 2 points. And they would have untimely turnovers, live ball turnovers that would really hurt them. And Sensabaugh every now and then gets sped up. He tries a little bit too much. He had 5 turnovers in their loss at Nebraska. So they've got to really take care of that. Justice Suing is struggling a little bit. Not sure what's happening. Maybe he's fighting through injury. He has had some high turnover numbers in a few of those games. His shooting percentage is way down. He hasn't had a lot of looks, and so I'm not sure. He may be trying to battle through an injury. But this is a guy that's a tough matchup. He's strong, lefty, kind of an undersized 4. He can slide between the 3 and the 4. And he's been struggling offensively, and thus the Buckeyes have been struggling. And Zed Key has been trying to come back from a shoulder injury that he lost a couple games with. You know he's not 100%. He's wearing a harness, and he's trying to overcome it to get back out there with his teammates. And his presence is definitely needed, but he's nowhere near 100%. So he's trying to come back through that shoulder. All right, let's move over to the Illini. The Illini had a 19-day stretch where they didn't have a day off. So I know that it's like, what? They had days between games, but they didn't have more than 2 or 3 days between games. And so Underwood, I don't know exactly how he managed the situation, but everybody's going to have to go through a stretch like that. I don't know if it's going to be 19 days, but there's going to be tough stretches within this Big Ten Conference. And that's what coaches get paid to do, navigate these stretches. And the Illini had a really good run. They seem to be flat against Indiana. No excuse because Indiana put it on them. Indiana's intensity and effort forced a lot of situations, but 13 missed free throws. I don't care how tired you are. If you want to be an elite team in the Big Ten Conference where it's a lot of parity and you don't have a lot of room for error, you cannot miss 13 free throws, especially at home. Those are familiar rims. That's familiar territory. You don't have the student section going crazy in front of you. And you missed 13 free throws. They were 9 of 23, 14 free throws. 9 of 22, 9 of 23, 13 or 14 free throws. And according to Brad Underwood, they had 12 missed layups. So part of it he attributed to the brutal stretch, but part of it is mental toughness. Even if you're fatigued, you still, I don't know about making all your free throws, but if you make half of those, then it could be a different outcome. Maybe you get 4 of those layups, it could be a different outcome. I think we saw once again when the ball doesn't move for the Illini, they get in trouble. And Indiana was able to press up against Illinois, and they weren't able to swing the ball side to side. So you saw Illinois start to put Terrence Shannon in a high ball screen action and space the floor. So they would start him at the right side, kind of high away from the bucket to give him space to come off the ball screen, get into the teeth of the defense and make a play either for his teammates or get to the bucket. So Terrence Shannon I thought he played hard. He played well. It wasn't his best game, but he was one of the few bright spots in that game against Indiana. And so Brad Underwood recognized that his team was not going to be able to move the basketball well. So he resorted to some set plays, some ball screen actions, and it didn't pan out for the Illini. They got 23 free throw attempts. It just couldn't convert. Will Matthew Meyer be healthy? He was sick in the Indiana game. I think Underwood made the decision. I saw during the game that he went over, put his hand on Matthews' leg, probably told him, look, you don't have it tonight. I appreciate you gutting it out, but just chill. We'll try to win this one without you. And there was a mutual respect there. So I really garnered even more respect for Brad Underwood in that scenario, because it did not look good. The Illini were trying to scramble to get back in the game, and every time they got close, Indiana made a play. It was either Trace Jackson Davis or Geronimo on the weak side, or Jalen Hood-Schifino. They got multiple contributions in that game, and I just thought it was a classy move of Brad to understand that even if you were going to put Matthew Meyer back in the game, he may not have made a difference down the stretch against the Hoosiers. So we'll see if Matthew Meyer is healthy. I don't know what type of illness he was dealing with, but it's flu season. Things are going around, so hopefully he got some rest. They were mandatory 2 days off after the Indiana loss, so hopefully he got rested and he's healthy. Dane Danger needs 10 shots minimum. I thought he had some decent looks, but he rushed it against Trace Jackson Davis. And look, we got to start giving that young man, Trace Jackson Davis, his credit. He lit up Michigan State, came off of 35 points. I believe that was his Big Ten career high against Illinois. He comes back and drops 26 or 28 on Michigan State. I mean, this kid is phenomenal. He's the best he's one of the best athletes in the conference. And so Dane had his hands full trying to score on Trace. So I think Dane will have much more success moving forward against some of the other bigs like Zed Key. I think Ohio State is a little undersized. So Dane can eat. And he needs at least 10 shots against the Buckeyes. And I think the Illini can pound the offensive glass against the Buckeyes. Not that the Buckeyes aren't a good rebounding team. They are. But I think the size and length and the depth that the Illini can play with may cause problems for the Buckeyes in terms of the Buckeyes cleaning off the defensive glass. Maybe the Illini can get some additional putbacks, some additional possessions based on their ability to crash the offensive glass. All right, let's look at keys real quick. The Buckeyes need to start the game with some defensive intensity. They got that against Iowa in their last win to overcome that 5-game losing streak. I think some of that was Zed Key being out and injured. Some of that is the brutal nature of the Big Ten when you have these games that come so quickly and you have to turn around and game plan for different styles. I think that plays into it. And so I think that if the Buckeyes establish some defensive intensity early, I think they'll be okay, because the Buckeyes can score. The scoring has not been the issue for them. The issue, in my opinion, has been consistent defensive stops. And if they can start the game with some defensive intensity, that will bode well for the Buckeyes. Also, Isaac Likely, I told you he had 18 and 10 against Iowa, and he was much more offensively aggressive against the Hawkeyes because they had smaller guards trying to check him. Ulis, Perkins really didn't guard him a lot. But the point guards at Iowa, Isaac Likely really took advantage of them, utilizing his size advantage. And, of course, the Buckeyes are going to create space for Bryce Sensabaugh. No one has really been able to shut him down. He struggled a little bit against Nebraska because they're unorthodox defensively, and I think it was something new to him. But they need to create space and opportunities for Sensabaugh. And if he can get into the 20-point range or more, that really bodes well for the Buckeyes. On the Illini side, give Sensabaugh different looks. The Illini have this plethora of wings, big wings, that they can give Bryce Sensabaugh a lot of different looks. Maybe even, R.J. Melendez, Terrence Shannon Jr., Matthew Meyer, maybe even Coleman Hawkins from a time or two that will have to switch out on him. Even throw Sincere Harris on him to get underneath him and dog him, really get after him and dog him defensively, make him uncomfortable, take some of his space away, make him turn his back when he's handling the basketball. And the Illini have this ability to do this. And the Illini wings can give Justice Suing some problems as well. Justice Suing usually bulldogs wing players in the, a lot of times because of his combination of quickness, size, and his ability with his left hand. The Illini have the aforementioned wing size that may give him some issues. So those are the keys for the game in the scouting report for Ohio State. If you want to join the inner circle, that is Bardo's Breakdown. You see the number there, 312-847-2739. Text me, and I give behind-the-scenes looks. I'll give pictures. I'll give video. Like, for example, tonight I'm doing the makeup game for Wisconsin at Northwestern, 5:30 Central Standard Time on Big Ten Network. Me and Brandon Gaudin on the 1s and 2s. So if you're a part of the tribe, you'll see some background stuff there. And if you want to join the email list, you want to have, I do a weekly email list, came out this morning. This was a good one. Some of the readers thought this was nice and spicy. You see it there, StephenBardo.com/college-basketball-newsletter. That's StephenBardo.com/college-basketball-newsletter. All right. Well, thanks for watching this edition of Flyin Illini Breakdown. We'll see how the Illini do in this matchup against the Buckeyes. Best of luck to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Best of luck to the Illinois Fighting Illini in their game tomorrow night. Check back next time, y'all. Holla!